There is someone in your life right now whose condition you have already accepted as final. A diagnosis the doctors have confirmed, a situation every person around you has called hopeless, a door that has been declared shut permanently, beyond appeal. And without realizing it, you have been confirming that verdict every single day. Every time you think of them and feel the weight of it, you are not simply grieving. You are not simply being realistic. You are occupying a state, and whatever state you occupy, your imagination, which is God in you, faithfully creates. Most people do not know this, and so they continue to hold the sick man in sickness, the broken situation in brokenness, believing that their worry is love and their fear is honesty. I know this because I once stood in that same position. My nephew Billy was 17 years old. He was dying of cancer in Barbados, 2,000 miles away from where I stood in New York City. Every doctor who examined him had used the same word, terminal. I had no money for a ticket, no way to reach him by any physical means. But I had spent years proving to myself that physical means are never the only means. And on one Monday afternoon, I did something that his mother witnessed with her own waking eyes, something that no law of the physical world can account for. Stay with me, because what I did that afternoon, you can do tonight for anyone whose condition you have been holding in the wrong imagination. When every physical door is closed, most men surrender to what their senses confirm. They pace. They telephone people who can do nothing. They rehearse the worst possible outcome so many times in the mind that they become, without knowing it, the very architects of the thing they most fear. I had done that before in other circumstances. I knew where it led. So on that Monday afternoon, we were expecting a friend for the cocktail hour. I walked quietly to my bedroom. I closed the door, and I lay down upon my bed, not to rest, not to petition God in the manner most people understand petition, but to go somewhere, to go to Barbados. I did not sit in New York and think about Barbados. I did not picture it from a distance as a man pictures a place he wishes to visit. I placed myself there entirely, without reservation, in my imagination. I withdrew my attention from the room in New York, from the sounds of the city, from the weight of what the doctors had said, and I turned my whole awareness toward a single room in Barbados, the room where I believed Billy would be lying. I could feel the air there, warmer, heavier than New York. I could sense the particular stillness of that house, and I waited. In my imagination, I felt my sister, Billy's mother, come through the door of that room. She stopped because she did not see her son on that bed. She saw me, her brother Neville, who she knew to be 2,000 miles away in New York City, was sitting in that room beside her son. I held that scene. I did not force it. I did not strain against it. I simply dwelt in it, the way a man dwells in a room he has always known, until it carried the full weight of reality, until there was no part of me that remained in New York. And then I released it. I rose. I returned to the sitting room. Our friend arrived for cocktails. The evening passed as evenings pass. Conversation, the ordinary movement of life, continuing around me as though nothing of consequence had occurred. I told no one what I had done. I want you to mark that. I did not announce it. I did not seek reassurance that it had worked. I did not return to the bedroom to repeat the act and verify its power. I had dwelt in the end. I had felt it as real. And I trusted the law to do what the law always does when the imaginal act is complete. I simply went back to living. Several days later, a letter arrived from Barbados. It was from my sister. She wrote to tell me something that had disturbed her deeply, something she could not explain and felt she must put into words. On a Monday afternoon, she had walked into the room where Billy lay, and she had seen me there, not a shadow, not a half-formed impression, not the image of a dream. She was fully awake in the clear light of the afternoon, and she saw her brother Neville sitting in that room, 2,000 miles from where she knew I was. She stopped at the door, startled. And then, as suddenly as I had appeared, I was gone. She did not know what had happened. She knew only what she had seen. What she could not have known, what I had told no one, was that at that precise moment, on that Monday afternoon, I had been lying upon my bed in New York, placing myself in that very room beside her son. The imaginal act and what she witnessed had occurred at the same hour, across 2,000 miles. And Billy recovered. Not partially, not for a season. He recovered. The boy the doctors had pronounced terminal lived. I am not asking you to account for this by any law of the natural world. I cannot account for it in those terms myself. But I ceased long ago trying to make imagination obey the rules of matter. Matter obeys imagination. That is the law. That is what Billy's life bears witness to. Now, why do I tell you this tonight? Not to astonish you, not to give you a curiosity to carry away. I tell it because there is someone in your life, or perhaps it is your own condition, for whom the verdict has already been spoken. And I want you to understand what you have been doing with that verdict day after day without knowing it. Every time you think of that person and feel the dread of their situation, you are confirming it. Every time you rehearse the doctor's words, turn the diagnosis over in your mind, imagine the worst that may come, you are not facing reality. You are creating it. You are dwelling in a state, and imagination is faithfully sustaining what you dwell in. This is what I had to cease the moment I heard the word terminal. I did not petition God on Billy's behalf. I did not hold him in my thoughts and hope for the best. I did something far more exact, far more demanding of the whole man. I constructed in my imagination a scene that could only exist if Billy were already well. And I moved inside that scene completely. I did not observe it from a distance, wishing it were true. I inhabited it as a man inhabits a room he is actually standing in. I felt the air of that place. I felt my sister's presence. I was there, not as one who desired to be there, but as one who was there, now, without question. That is the distinction I wish you to carry from this evening. Hoping stands outside the door and waits. Assuming walks through it and takes its place within. When you hope for someone's recovery, you remain in the state of one who fears they may not recover. When you assume the recovery, when you inhabit in imagination the scene of their being well, you withdraw your creative power from the condition and place it where it belongs. You cannot hold someone in sickness with your imagination and call it love. Every anxious rehearsal of their condition is an act of imagination, and imagination creates. The most faithful thing you can do for one who suffers is to dwell as fully and as honestly as you are able in the reality of their being restored. Do this tonight before sleep draws near. Do not devise the means by which it will come to pass. You could not devise them if you tried, just as I could not have devised that a letter would come, or that my sister would stand witness to what no physical law permits. You are not responsible for the bridge. You are responsible only for the end. Inhabit the end. Feel it as done. Rest in it, not as effort, but as the quiet recognition of something already accomplished within. Billy's mother did not understand what she saw in that room. The doctors did not understand what the examination confirmed. They did not need to understand. Comprehension was never the requirement. Only assumption, only the willingness to occupy, without apology and without strain, the reality you have inwardly accepted. Now, let us go into the silence.